Joining me right now, a Never Hillary man, Democratic strategist Harlan Hill, Hillary supporter Crystal Ball from the New Leaders Council, and Trump economic advisor Steve Moore. Good to see all you guys. You know, Harlan, you were a big Bernie Sanders supporter.
I was.
It's got to be hard for you in this environment right now to look at him and feel like, you know, he's doing what he needs to do. I mean, did he basically fold in your view? And if so, what does that mean for you and all his supporters?
He's come up short. Look, we expected him to take on the establishment, to destroy the establishment, really. And we didn't expect him to actually conform and capitulate and be a good Democrat. That's not what we were voting for. We were voting for change, and I think what we're getting now is exactly what you would expect from any other challenge.
And that's why we're seeing so many people. I mean, as I was leaving this arena last night, there were thousands of people in the streets still out there with the Bernie Sanders signs. They were chanting. They made it very clear. I mean, you looked even around this audience, right, last night, and there were people that were actually crying when he was giving his speech. They feel like they have lost something. So what happens to them now? What happens to you? Who are you going to vote for?
Well, for a lot of people, Bernie was their last hope. And so and before that, I think Barack Obama was their last hope. And so people feel really disenchanted with the political system, and they don't think that government's listening. They certainly don't think that Hillary Clinton's going to listen. And so for me, it's going to be Donald Trump, because I'm rolling the dice on somebody that I think just might have what it takes to mix it up.
You know, so Crystal, you're a Hillary supporter. What does she need to do right now? What do you guys need to do to convince people like Harlan that they need to get on board with her?
And so for a little bit of background, I was actually one of the first people to come out, and I asked Hillary Clinton not to run for president, and I was a Bernie supporter as well.
Yeah.
But what I've seen is the fact that he came to the Clinton campaign. They collaborated together on a much improved plan for college debt relief to make sure that people who make less than $125,000 a year can go to college debt-free. They collaborated on the platform. It's the most progressive platform the Democratic Party has ever seen. So on the contrary to what Harlan is saying, you know, I think that the Sanders campaign was incredible. The energy was amazing. He was my guy. I wish he would have won. But I also see the way that he has moved the Democratic Party in a positive direction has held them accountable and said, you know what, we're not going to be the party of Wall Street anymore.
Let me bring Steve Moore into the conversation as well, because I look at it and I say, okay, she picked a VP choice that, you know, frankly, it really doesn't stand for the same things that Bernie Sanders stands for. I mean, he's in favor of the TPP deal. He is calling for deregulation. Well, as has she, right? I mean, everybody's switching their tune
but they took
in
it out of the
recent
party
days
platform.
because they have to. But you think about the trade issue. You think about, Steve, banking deregulation. Just days ago, the guy wrote signed two letters calling for more deregulation in the banking system. And I'm saying to myself, am I in some kind of upside down world? I mean, you got the VP on Hillary Clinton's ticket asking for more deregulation in banking, while we know Bernie Sanders feels quite differently on that?
Look, I think the Bernie Sanders voters and Bernie Sanders himself, I mean, he talked to us about this all the time. We're going to have a revolution in this country, that we're going to embrace a radical change. And Hillary Clinton is the ultimate status quo candidate, right? I mean, if there were any political insider in America, she's the personification of that. And that's one reason I would say, and by the way, I don't think the vice presidential pick in this case matters much one way or the other. I mean, it's really all about Hillary. And she is the epitome of the status quo, situation. And that's why I think a lot of you asked, will some of these Bernie Sanders voters migrate to Trump? I think some percentage of them will, because he's the one for change. And some of them, I would say, Trish, will just stay home. They won't vote at all.
They might just stay home, and that's bad news for her. People are comparing this to 1968, pointing out that this is one of the reasons why Nixon was able to win, because a lot of Democrats stayed home at that point. Are you hearing that from some of the Bernie contingency?
Absolutely. And when you look at the polling, that bears out as well. I mean, there's conflicting numbers, but it's somewhere between 45 and 55% say that they're going to vote for Hillary Clinton. The rest are either going to stay home, they're going to vote for Donald Trump, or they're going to vote for Jill Stein or Gary Johnson.
The latest numbers actually show that 90% of Bernie supporters are going to back Hillary Clinton. So that number has shifted.
Likely voters, I don't buy that at all.
Well, that's what Pew Research is saying. But let me just jump in here on Tim Kaine, because I'm a native Virginian, so I got to see him work up close there. And he's not getting credit for the courageous leader that he was there. You know, this is a guy, Republicans won't want to hear it, but he took on the NRA in the state that the NRA is literally based on. He stood strong for his principles in terms of his opposition to the death penalty. So to say that this guy just sort of rolls over and is middle-of-the-road guy, it's just not who he is.
Let's talk about something that we heard on this floor last night, and that was a lot about fear. They really painted Donald Trump as the candidate that you need, Harlan, to absolutely, positively fear. It was good versus evil. And you heard this laced throughout Michelle Obama's speech, which I would argue actually was delivered extraordinarily well. She's a heck of a speaker, as is her husband. But it was alarming in that they were trying to present him as effectively, you know, the devil reincarnated. And we also heard this in a very strident way from Cory Booker.
Yes. Well, I actually find Donald Trump's authenticity to be very refreshing. I see a lot of this in Bernie Sanders. I don't want a leader that's going to sugarcoat it. I don't want a leader that's going to deny the problems that we have with the economy, the problems that we have with ISIS and terrorism.
But Harlan, he's someone who is denying the problem we have with climate change. He's someone who stands in direct opposition to what Bernie Sanders
has tried to do.
Look,
Crystal, with all due respect, I think this is a complete backlash against. Hang on, Crystal. This is a complete backlash against a president who, for goodness sakes, thinks that this is one of the biggest problems facing our country right now.
Barack Obama right now.
We're voting for a third term.
We are voting for either for or against the principles that Bernie Sanders stands for. And I think that's what he laid out last night really eloquently, is that Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party platform is
Let me go over to
more in line
right now,
with your values than the Republican